What's up, family, and welcome back to another episode of the Melanin Wellness Podcast. I'm your host, Corey, fitness coach, wellness advocate, and your girl who believes healing, joy, and glow ups are your absolute birthright. Today, we're going to be getting into something that every woman should know about. It's called cycle syncing. So the topic today may not necessarily be for my fellas, but that's okay. But then again, some of the information might help you to understand your lady a little bit more. You decide. So we're going to learn today how that we can work with our flows and not against it by tracking our cycles. Okay. So I'm really excited about this. So before we begin, we're going to start this episode like we begin every single episode, and that is with 30 seconds of gratitude. Today, I am so grateful to be here with you, as I always am, because y'all light up my life. Like y'all's comments, y'all's DMs, y'all's emails. Chef's kiss. I really appreciate all of the support and all of the comments. I am so grateful for this next season in my life, as well as of the show. So many things have changed and so much evolution has taken place. I'm actually going to have my very first speaking engagement coming up next month. And so, later this month, actually. And I am so grateful to have been chosen to be a part of the mission that I'm going to be a part of. So I'm grateful for that. I am also grateful for knowledge because, oftentimes the issue of changing things comes with the fact that you don't have the knowledge and you don't know what you don't know. And when you don't know something, you don't know how to change it or make it better. Now, I know that that was more than 30 seconds. Let me move this out the way though. I know that this was more than 30 seconds, and that's okay because, again, you open up your world for so much more abundance and happiness and joy when you live in a space and you practice gratitude consistently. Let's get into it. So if you've ever felt like your energy, your motivation, or moods were all over the place and you really had no idea why, this episode is for you. Let's learn how to stop fighting our cycles and start syncing with them. All right, so you might be asking, what is cycle syncing anyway? So, cycle syncing is the practice of adjusting your diets, your workouts, your work tasks, and your lifestyle habits based on the four phases. Four phases. A lot of people don't realize that the menstrual cycle has four phases. The four phases of your menstrual cycle. And it's about flowing with those hormonal changes instead of pushing against them. Right. So your cycle isn't just about your period itself. There are four distinct phases. So if you don't have a pen and a piece of paper, get this and write this down. It's going to come in clutch later, I promise. Number one is the menstrual phase, and that is when your uterus sheds its lining, and that is when you begin to have the flow. Cycle two is the follicular phase, which is right after you've had your flow. Number three is the ovulatory phase, and that is that mid-cycle magic. That is when you get that burst of energy and you feel like you can take on the world. And then cycle four is the luteal phase, and that is the wind down before it is time for the menstrual phase to come back. Those are typically the times when people feel super drained, super exhausted. And I know that I have had to learn how to cycle and work with that cycle. It has been a game changer in my productivity, in my business, in my podcast, in everything that it is that I do. So each phase comes with its own hormonal vibes. And when you work with them, instead of trying to ignore them or bulldozing through, you feel better, perform better, and just in general, you're going to live better. Because I'm going to tell you something right now. Nothing is worse than feeling drained and irritated and trying to press through to the next thing, and we as Black women oftentimes are always trying to push through. And before I continue, it is very important for everybody to understand that whether you still have the actual menstrual cycle or not, because there are some of us who have had partial hysterectomies or, they take certain birth controls that suppress your menstrual cycles. Even if you don't actually have a flow, your body still goes through these phases every month. Track it. You'll see what I'm talking about. So now let's start to explain a little bit about the four phases in more detail because it's helpful to know the details and the ins and outs. And when I start talking about this, you're probably going to go, oh, You know what? That makes perfect sense. All right. So number one, your menstrual phase that lasts anywhere between 1 and 5 days. Now, not that's not necessarily talking about the length of your flow because some people's flow lasts longer or shorter. But the menstrual phase itself is a 1 to 5 day period. Your hormones are at their lowest. You are definitely not in the mood for anybody's shenanigans, okay? Energy is very, very low. You're tired, you're exhausted, and you're doing good just to get up and do your normal daily activities like brushing your teeth, washing your face, putting on some clothes, and going to work, school, or wherever it is you got to be. This particular time is best for rest, reflection, like journaling, light movement in terms of exercises like yoga, walking. Keep it really low lift. Okay. We're not about to be out here power cleaning during this phase of our cycles because nobody got time for that. Nobody has the energy for that. And again, we ain't doing that. And when it comes to your diet, you want to try to eat warming, iron rich foods because you're going to be losing a lot of blood. You don't want your red blood counts and your CBCs to go low because that also can contribute to, that lack of energy, especially for those who have particularly heavy cycles. Okay. Iron rich foods like delicious warm soups and stews and a lot of leafy greens because a lot of leafy greens contain high amounts of iron. All right. Now in our follicular, am I saying that right, y'all? Follicular phase, those are days 6 through 14. So that's like an 8-day window. And that's when our estrogen levels begin to rise because after we've had that complete washout, that flush out, the estrogen levels begin to rise again. And then your energy and your creativity increase. So you're going to start feeling much better and feeling like you're up for certain things. So this particular phase is best for things like brainstorming and starting new projects and even those more intense workouts. So if you want to go ahead and hit the weights hard, hit that treadmill super hard, have at it. Okay. And during this particular phase, the type of diet that is going to be best for us is going to be those fresh, vibrant foods, those lean proteins, and those colorful veggies and the fermented foods, because that's what's going to really help to give you some of that energy. Now, when we're talking about fermented foods in the luteal phase, we might be talking about stuff like kefir. Like personally, I don't like it. I'm not eating it. But for those who like it, those will actually be good for you during that phase. Now, on to the ovulatory phase, which are days 15 to 17. So that ovulation window is very short. So for those who will be trying to conceive, you'd have to catch it during this particular phase and counting that cycle. It can vary by days sometimes, but this is the phase in which your estrogen really peaks and you start to feel confident AF. Okay, y'all, let me tell y'all something. I love this phase. This phase is everything to me. Communication and connections are always on point. Like everything just meets exactly where it's supposed to, when it's supposed to. And it is best for times when you have to do things like public speaking, networking, high impact workouts like those high impact aerobics, maybe a Zumba class if they still got those. Like they don't have those where I'm at no more, but I'll make up my own. So, but anyway, and during this phase, eating fiber-rich foods and cruciferous veggies like broccolis and cauliflowers and cabbage, they are excellent for supporting your liver's detox during your ovulation phase. Remember, you only got a couple days of feeling like an absolute superhero, so take advantage of that. And finally, the luteal phase, which are days 18 to 28. This is the longest phase, and I'm gonna be honest with you. I hate this phase. I hate this phase because I don't necessarily feel what this says, right? So your progesterone is going to rise during that luteal phase. You might feel more introspective and more moody. I know that I absolutely do. It's best for finishing off tasks, self-care, slower strength workouts, and like those lower lift activities. Cravings definitely start to hit you there, and you can support those cravings with complex carbs and magnesium rich foods. Now, I'm going to say this about cravings, and I talked about this in a previous episode about, why cravings hit and how to beat them at their own game. And I'll link that in the description box. You can go back and check that out. But one of the things about cravings is that for me, and for those that I coach on diet and nutrition, I do not tell people to not give in to their cravings. And let me tell you why. Because for me, I know that if I don't just go ahead and give in or answer that craving, it's going to keep bugging me until the point that I'm not going to be able to stop it. And once I start, I won't be able to stop. So instead of depriving myself, I just go ahead, have a little bit of it, because realistically, oftentimes it don't even taste as good as I think it's going to taste by the time I give in. So I give in and I'm like, okay, I don't even want no more. I'll just have a little bit and then I'll go on about my business and then it's gone. So always remember, you know what type of person that you are and you know what your diet tendencies tend to be. So if you're the kind of person that if I start with that bag of chips, if I start with just a few, that whole bag is about to be done. Then either take some out, put it in a small little Ziploc bag and say, this is all I'm eating, or you just don't do it at all. It is completely up to you. This is an individual preference, and you have to make sure that you always meet yourself where you are. Like this particular roadmap, this is like finally understanding your body's real rhythm and learning how to honor it instead of fighting against it. Now, let's get into how to start cycle syncing today. So here's how you can start it without getting completely overwhelmed. Number one, track your cycle. You can use an app. I personally choose not to use those apps because it ain't none of their business. I just write mine down in a calendar or a planner. But if you like to use apps, there's one called Flow, F-L-O, Clue, or MyFlow to see where you are in your cycle. Number two, start small. Begin with syncing your workouts or your meal planning, because during that last phase when you're exhausted, you do not feel like cooking. So meal prepping is going to be your best friend. Number three, listen to your body. If you feel tired, and you will, rest. If you feel fired up, then go for it. Go take on the world, go take on your tasks. And number four, plan ahead. Schedule your big tasks during your follicular or your ovulatory phase and rest during your menstrual phase or your luteal phases, depending on your energy levels. I know for me, that follicular and ovulatory phases, listen, I can go. But that last week, that luteal phase, I am completely drained. I am not in the mood for anybody's shenanigans. I don't want to talk to people. I don't want to see people. So those are the days in my business and in my podcast that I do not do any face-to-face interactions. I don't do much communication during that time because those are the times where I have the least amount of energy. So it's important for me to have excess content so that all I've got to do is just pull up some old content and drop it in, and I don't have to worry about creating new content and getting dressed and doing the whole thing, whole face beat, hair done. Don't nobody feel like doing all of that during that time. Listen, this isn't about being perfect. It's about reconnecting with yourself and learning to work with it instead of against it. We live in a society that often tells Black women to grind 24/7, even when our bodies are begging for rest. Cycle syncing gives you permission to move differently, to honor your energy, to trust your own body. So give yourself grace and start where you are. All right, y'all, that was a lot of good stuff. I hope this episode gave you a fresh perspective on your flow and reminded you of your body's absolute brilliance. Like being a woman and all the inner workings of us, listen, we carry whole human beings inside of us. And so I'm going to just leave it at that. If this helped you, share it with your girls, your coworkers, your sisters, anyone who could use this knowledge, and start tracking it. And I'd love to hear from you. In the comment section of this episode, if you're watching over on YouTube, I would love to hear from you. Or if you're listening to this on Spotify or iHeart or wherever you listen to your pods, I'd love to hear from you and hear if you've tried the cycle syncing and how is it working for you? How is it helping you to become, more productive, more flexible, get more rest, taking better care of yourself. And don't forget to follow the show wherever it is you listen to your pods. Leave a review if you're feeling the vibes, and support the pod if you want to over on Buy Me a Coffee if you like to keep this magic flowing. Because listen, y'all, podcasting ain't free. But until next time, family, stay well, stay glowing, and as always, be kind to yourself, sister. I'll see you guys in the next one.